And we're looking at fighting ISIS with two men of, let me say, of the cloth. One a little more secular and closer to silk. But Pastor Clive Dottin, former Commissioner of Police Service Commission and community activist, and Subhas Panday, attorney at law, former Minister of National Security, are here. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here.
Sir. Pleasure to be here.
How serious is the ISIS situation in Trinidad and Tobago, and how serious are we taking it?
Well, I'm not sure we have to take it seriously. I am not in a position to evaluate, the depth of seriousness, but it requires more than I think it is taking place, and it requires all the machinery that exists off camera. I was talking to Mr. Panday here, and the wise use of the machinery we have. Now, why I say wise use, there are people who feel that we have a collapse of intelligence gathering in the country, and part of that is fueled by the low detection rate, and it's not just the detection rate, but the issue of sentencing, and cases being proven in court. So that we have a situation that, to my mind, could be described as frightening in terms of that. Because if you have, let's say you have about 85 to 100 going, nobody's quite sure the figure, give a little.
Even that is a problem.
And even that is a problem. Even the 9 from Turkey, one isn't quite sure who they are, and we are yet to hear when they will be returning. That's one. But I want to focus on the youth. I think right now, given the crime situation in the country, it is fertile ground for the recruiting of especially the age range 16 to 25. I have met young people at age 15 and 16 who have more than 3 death threats posted on them. So they will want to come out. And then there was a certain level of frustration among the youth. And you have perhaps, after 40 years, we could talk about corruption being endemic in the society. And so there are several issues that are coming to bear here, but there's a trend that I find worrying in that I dealt with a case where the person came from the British Virgin Islands into Trinidad, all right, being recruited and posted such heavy stuff on Facebook, such bizarre stuff about not just decapitation, but going into other organs, sensitive organs of the body, that Facebook shut down the site. And I know about this, and I want to compliment the Officer Shabin and a young police officer, Nicholas Singh, from the St. James Police Youth Club, who have been very, very helpful in terms of this. So it is a problem, and you know what they're saying right now, that they have to double that figure in terms of those who are being recruited now, who we would use evangelical language in terms of being in the valley of decision, whether they should go or not go. So we have a problem, and it shouldn't be swept under the carpet.
Pastor, with respect of ISIS, it is very frightening in that imagine that we have a government and we don't know how many persons are in Syria. Imagine we don't have that intelligence at all. We don't have any intelligence on the ground, and my view is that is frightening. I want to say that a lot of work had been done in set up the machinery for intelligence. For example, we had the Interception of Communications Act, which gives the investigator the power to tape, intercept your conversation. And when all he has to do is get the permission of the Commissioner of Police, or the head of the regiment, or the head of the SSA. And once he's taping, and he believes that he's about to get information, all he has to do, call someone from the judiciary, and all that had been put in place, and you could get something called an oral warrant. You don't have to wait to write for a warrant, because you're acting, you're trying to get information on time, and then subsequently you could go and get a warrant, a written warrant. But you could tape that evidence, and once you get that evidence, that is usable in any court, and you could tell me that we don't have that. Also, we arrested 16 persons in SOE, and have we not done interviews with them to find out who is the kingpin, what is going on? Because I'm certain that if you had asked any other head of the authorities to take any one of those persons, you would not have been denied, and we have not done it. So there's a severe lack of intelligence. Another issue is, Pastor, there's the Advanced Information Act. Advanced passenger information, in that you could put down a no-fly zone, a no-fly list, and they can't come out of the country. So we'd have kept them here and deal with them, or flag them. In that the moment you have the the list of passengers on a plane. You just call the destination where they're about to land, and you have them waiting for them there. Nothing has taken place. And it's frightening to hear certain people saying, oh, people can leave the country and go where they want and you can't follow them. That is for people like you, good people. We are speaking about people who are persons of interest. Those are the persons we should have known where our citizens are persons of interest at any point in time. And that is what is making it frightening with ISIS.
When you say keep them here and deal with them, how would you prescribe?
Monitor them. You'll have them here, you'll monitor them. You could put people like a pastor who is doing a good work. You debrief them. You work on them. Not punish them really, because it seems to me that these people believe what they're doing is right.
There's an ideological position.
And we could have probably dealt with it here. Having gone there and having had that experience with guns and high-tech equipment, it makes it frightening when they return. When they return, we can't do them anything. And we can't stop them from coming past. And the reason why we can't charge them under the Anti-Terrorism Act, Pastor, it says that they must attack life, limb, property, or terrorize people, right? And it says...
And you have to prove that.
No, not only that, Pastor. And the law has an intention in it. Not only terrorizing, but you must also have the intent to cause the government to behave in a particular way, or don't behave in a particular way, or an international organization to behave in a particular way. So therefore, if they went to Syria and they caused the Syrian government to behave in a particular way, that doesn't affect us. The law is, it must affect the Trinidadian government. And as a result of that, I don't think we could charge them for any offense under the Terrorism Act. So where we are.
But there's something a little unnerving in that the Crawford guy, who they reveal the statement, he said, and we're quoting it, was published, not only here but internationally, that he was under surveillance and was able to do a job, a jihadic job, by executing two people in the city. Now, if you're under surveillance and could do that, it tells you a lot about surveillance, if it is true. But it is amazing that all that could take place right under our eyes, and you know, and where we are going. But the truth be told, you have a number of individuals. I think part of our problem with our intelligence and security services is a lack of collaboration, a lack of communication. For example, in one of the cases where a relative called Trinidad, and I was the point person, and we went to the police, all right? So that's an example of how you cooperate. And we had to find this guy. This guy's a professional guy, young, brilliant mind. I want to debunk the idea that these are pilot dropouts who just been picked up. I want to debunk that. And remember, in the Middle East, when you check like Saudi Arabia, Iran, Hezbollah, Yemen, and Syria, when you check that whole thing, you check the black market trade in oil and drugs, the narcotic dimension of the terrorism. You have a lot of factors pulling together to market your business globally and attract young minds, whether they're young depressed minds, young frustrated minds, or ideological minds. You have all that going here. When we got to the place where we were supposed to interview the guy who was held, because the family in the British Virgin Islands were making all the preparation to get him back. They were scared for what he was doing. They understood the impact, the consequences could be fatal to him. By the way, let me tell you something. There are children from Trinidad who are orphaned because the family went away to join ISIS. And the dad was killed and the mother here, you know. So that you have to look at the family, the sociological dimension of this thing. So this is extremely serious. What I was saying is when I made an attempt to communicate with the guy, I was blocked by a particular police officer in a particular police station. And the parents had asked us to be in charge until they got him back to where he belonged and not going to the Middle East. Of course, young people have a mind of their own. And what is a little frightening to me is that some of the youth who are being recruited, and there's a definite strategic recruitment campaign going on, they're also on drugs. so that, you could play with the mind. All right? So it's ideological. There's also a narcotic dimension. And then there's the arms dimension, because once you talk about drugs, you're talking about arms. You can't have a drug trade without an arms trade. So it calls for, a collaboration between all sectors in the society to address this. Whether it's 100 or 150 is not really the issue. How do we save these youth? How do we, kind of reframe their thinking? All right, because some of them are committed to the cause, whatever the cause is. And by the way, I want to say this, why I say it's fertile ground. You have young 16-year-olds in this country who have killed already, almost to match their ages, That is where you're going in this society, and it's a strategic move by those in charge of them, because they're minors, all right? So these guys are not killing, and word on the ground is that sometimes a guy will get 10,000 to kill someone, and he'll put the gun in the hand and give the guy a $500, so that you have all the conditions, you have the catalyst really on the ground for these young people to be recruited.
That leads me to ask the question, how, as a pastor and a community activist, how important is community in dealing with this situation?
I won't say much more, but I'm saying very, very important. And we must see it as part of our mission, all right? And the IRO has a role to play here too.
Pastor, I agree with you that educated people have gone to Syria. I know teachers who has gone to Syria. So therefore, when those persons come back, it's not vagabonds and rogues coming back, but educated people. But from a national security point of view, how do we get that intelligence? That's the problem we are having. Imagine those persons who have gone to Syria, they don't have the kind of funding to send to Syria. Where is the FIU in all of this? Following, tracing money, because there's a lot of money to send somebody to Syria.
Of course,
so the whole FIU, the whole financial institutional system, everything has collapsed. And the question we have to do is, how do we get this intelligence? I want to feel that the people must rise up to give this intelligence. But what you find is that me as a, take for example, me as a personally, only if it affects me personally, I may report to the police. But people not just going to the police and take the ad on television. If you say they report the police, they wouldn't do it. I want to say that the politicians have a role in that you have councillors who cover the whole of Trinidad. They have small electoral districts. You can't tell me that if a councillor is working, he would know where the hotspots are. He would know the persons who are there. Then over that now there's a next layer. And that layer is the members of parliament. If a member of parliament is going through this constituency, he must get information about the hotspots in this constituency. And we are paying those politicians, and they have a greater duty to report it in that they have an interest in the matter, unlike a private person. And as Pastor said, the church itself, Church Trinidad and Tobago, we have churches, and the church, I want to say, for example, Pastor, has been doing a good job in that regard. But we need to find people who are willing to come forward and give the information to the authorities, and who would not be suspected as a informant and bullet next day. People are afraid to give information because it could be killed anytime.
What is the trust
issue? You have to
issue?
find a way.
The intelligence gathering and the detection rate is linked to the trust issue too.
Agree with you, Pastor.
So that if people don't trust and they feel that there's a nexus between the security officials and the ground gang leader, that is the beginning of your heartache and headache, if you please.
Sure.
So that we have to address that. What I hope we do not have and do not gravitate to, and it worries me a whole lot, what you do not want, because we have had reports of guys in security who already have investments in the drug trade on the block. Now, these guys are coming from there too, these recruits. What and you do not want is
and whenever they
support.
move faster, they move with strength, because they know they have law enforcement behind them to protect them.
The protection racket I'm coming to. The protection racket is something we have to break the back of. You see what I'm saying? All the conditions on the ground, basically, conditions of deficiencies, all right? And I think the country is going in a direction of moral bankruptcy. And I have to mention this. I'm a little hurt by the comments that allegedly made on Twitter by Tima about the young lady Marissa. I saw Marissa cry and I felt her how. But whatever the politics of the gymnastic federation's bureaucracy, But I feel there should be a little more compassion shown there. But the society too is going along the direction of revenge to her. If I tell you, you know, the issue of healing is foreign. And Dr. Rowley, when he was opposition leader, he himself said it's a difficult society to govern.
Sure.
Because it's plural in nature, not just religion and race, but class. And therefore, pulling the various strands together to weave it into a particular kind of fabric is a difficult thing and requires maturity and nobility to deal with it. But I don't feel, I have a feeling we should have an emergency joint parliamentary session on this issue. You know, I don't know what are the legal requirements for that to happen, but I think if you want it to happen, it can happen. It can happen.
Yes.
It's a profound issue that has, and I'm not sure if some of the recruits are doing their homework into what I call the geopolitics of the Middle East and the establishing a global ISIS caliphate. You know, I'm not sure they're doing all their homework. Granted that, you know, you have brilliant minds involved too, but reading is to the society sometimes a difficult issue. But ISIS itself is a complex issue.
And speaking to that complex issue, definitely this is not something that we can cover in this time. Hopefully we are able to have you all back, because one of the things I like about having both of you gentlemen here is that you all are a little removed from, let me say, more able to deal with governance as opposed to government. And many times that is an issue with such hot-button topics.
And what is frightening is what happens when they return. That's a frightening thing. You cannot punish them, you cannot lock them up for nothing. Maybe there might be a need for legislation to deal with people who are coming back, but at the same time, you cannot be draconian to force them back out.
That's right.
Because they will do what they have to do to go back out. So it may be necessary that the authorities keep them close to them, you debrief them, try to find out as much as you can, and at the same time, monitor them. But you cannot, these persons who have gone to Syria are willing to put down their lives. They're not afraid of anything. So when they come back, if a man is not afraid to die, it's difficult to deal with him.
You speak of when we come back, and hopefully we have you all come back. Subhas, Panday, Pastor Clive, Dottin, thank you so much.
This is your maiden voyage today?
No, it isn't.
Okay. All right.
But hopefully we're able to continue this at a later date. We want to thank you so much for actually bringing some of these things to the fore. And that alternative caliphate is something definitely we want to deal with, and having some of the ways that we can go forward, some of the incremental steps, because, you know, sometimes we're able to articulate what the situation is, but to say, okay, what do we do from here, sometimes that is a little nexus that we're not able to step to. So we want to thank you so much. And we want to thank you for tuning in to CTV. This is Good Morning Trinidad and Tobago. We are talking about CPL when we return.